Greetings, fellow infidels. I'm back. Now, some of you may be wondering what I've been up to in my absence, other than growing all of this. And I can assure you that I have been very busy.
Fuck you, dragon. Fucking creepers. Fucking Daleks.
Now, to get into today's video, the next two videos I'm going to be uploading are interviews that I recorded. I had a bit of an exciting experience recently. I got to sit down with David Fitzgerald and Aaron Ra and conduct interviews with the two of them. That's what's going to be uploaded next. And I also have another vlog in the works. And I have That's in the Bible. I know I've been saying it for months now, but it's getting close to being done. So, unless something else gets in the way...
Fucking Pikachu.
I should be back on track. For now, I leave you with the interview with David Fitzgerald. Enjoy.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm looking forward to hearing your speech. I heard you talk about it on Thinking Atheist a while back. That's actually how I first heard of you.
It's actually my favorite speech of all the speeches I've given to date. I'm excited about it too.
I was talking with Aaron earlier, who's heard it before, and he was like, "Yeah, that's not one you want to miss." So, but yeah, that's actually Thinking Atheist is also how I heard about this conference.
Gotcha. Isn't that a great show?
Oh, I love
that
it. That's one of the first ones I started listening to when I wasn't really Christian before, but I was starting to use the A word more.
Sure.
But so I just had a few, basic questions.
Sure.
First of all, how did you first get involved in activism? Because you're known as one of the most active activists out there right now.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I got started, I was a former Southern Baptist.
Okay.
And once I became an atheist, it's like, in some ways, I didn't change at all. In other ways, I did a complete 180. And I think the kind of atheist I am now is a result of the kind of Christian I was, where they're all constantly telling you, oh, this is the truth, and we have to defend the truth, and be the truth, and all the truth. And when you realize, you know what, this isn't the truth, all of a sudden you just, boom, it flips your whole world. And ironically, now that I'm not a Christian, I have more Christ-like love for all people and non-judgmental love than I did before when I was.
Okay. And what would you say to any other atheists that may be watching, if they're considering getting involved? Why is it important to get involved, and what are some good ways to get involved?
Great. Right now is a fantastic time to be an atheist. We are living in the dawn of a golden age for atheism. I used to say that right now the current generation in college is the least religious generation in history. And that's true, but that was when it was like around 25%, 27%. As of like the last week or the week before last, it's now like 30% religious, 30% spiritual but not religious, and 30% openly non-theistic at all. That's astounding. Wow. And those numbers are just keep ticking up. Mm-hmm. And churches know they are peeing their pants over all the kids they're hemorrhaging. You can be a part of that right now by getting on it. And there's so much work to be done right now. And it's an exciting time to be here. I'm so jazzed to be an atheist activist right now, because things like the Secular Student Alliance, things like Skepticon, things like this conference we're at now, the sexy secular conference, they're blowing up all over the place, and it's fantastic. It's just fantastic.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what's the most annoying argument you hear on a regular basis from the religious?
From the religious? Well, it's ironic you say that, because right now, the most annoying argument I get is from other atheists in reaction to my book Nailed, which tries to make the argument that there was no historical Jesus. And I didn't expect the Christians to like that, and they don't. But I didn't expect atheists to be, disagreeing with he's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But they got so dogmatic and so vociferous about it. It's like, dude, first of all, I love Bart Ehrman, but he's wrong about this, and it doesn't make him a bad person. And he knows he knows I love him, but he's wrong on this, and this is why. So the next book I'm working on is, if I should be showing this book, is a follow-up to this book, Nailed. This book took on like the top 10 ways that the Christian official story of Jesus just fails the reality test.
Okay.
And it's why I've become a Jesus mythicist, making the argument that Jesus never existed, even as a guy.
Okay.
And so the follow-up book to that is going to be called Jesus, Mything in Action, and it's going to take on all the atheist arguments that I get on a depressingly regular basis, and take on responding to like Bart Ehrman and something like that, who I love, but on this issue he's totally wrong.
Yeah. And as a kind of follow-up to that, since that was a subject I was going to be getting to.
Oh, right. I'm jumping ahead of us.
But I follow your Facebook, and I had seen the posts recently about Joseph Atwell.
Joseph Atwell. Yeah.
And
let me just say, how many of you in the audience have seen this meme about Joseph Atwell discovering the confession that the Romans invented it and Josephus invented Christianity? Okay, here's the one thing. He's absolutely right that Jesus is 100% made up, in my humble opinion. However, he is 100% absolutely wrong on every single reason why he says that's true. Christianity was not invented by the Romans. It was not invented by Josephus. It was invented by Jews scattered all over the Mediterranean, maybe even before they timed Jesus, And I'll be going into lots more detail about that in the next book.
Yeah, because I had seen Caesar's Messiah. It was an interesting take on the subject.
Yeah.
It was an argument I had never heard before, but again, if you do the research, there's a reason people don't hear that argument.
Exactly. And you know what's funny? If he's smart enough to come up with all this convoluted theory,
right,
he's smart enough to know that it's a non-starter completely. That's what baffles me. But the thing about that is, it actually turned into a kind of cool teaching moment, because one thing it showed is that atheists are not willing to jump on board of a crackpot idea just because it grinds their particular axe.
Right.
And I had Christian friends, I have creationist friends who said, you know what, I was really impressed with that you weren't just jumping on board the bandwagon of that. So maybe some good will come out of this crazy nonsense Atwell's trying to peddle.
Maybe. Let's see, what else do I have? Well, you mentioned that your upbringing was Baptist, you said.
Yeah, Southern Baptist. The only one true faith.
And how exactly, what was the catalyst that got you out of that?
Oh, it's a great story. There was a woman involved.
All great stories.
All great stories, yeah. I was, like I said, total Southern Baptist, believed it all, right down the line, was faithful and bold about it and all that. And the way that I would flirt with this particular girl is that we would have theological arguments with each other, because she was, one of those Renaissance fair, pagan, earth mothery types that, believe 6 contradictory things before breakfast every morning. And one day, we're just, going at it the way we did. And she goes, well, Dave, the Hindu religion is like 3,000 years old in Christianity. And I was all set to jump down her case and go, oh, no, it's not. And before I could even get a word out, I had this epiphany. It's like, you know what? I have no idea if Christianity is older than Hinduism. And as it turned out, no, Hinduism really is 3,000 years old in Christianity. And that realization, in just the bolt from the blue, that I was just as bad as all the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses and all these other guys I've been railing about for years about just parroting what they were taught, I was doing the exact same knee-jerk thing that I've been, giving them crap for. And honestly, it was that instantaneous. It's like there's a Talking Head song where he's going, am I right or am I wrong? My God, what have I done? That guy was on my shoulder singing this in my ear at that very moment, and I was like, well, wow. I never looked at Christianity the same way. From that moment on, it was like, this is all bullshit. And it was so obviously bullshit. It's like, holy crap. And yeah. All of a sudden, young Earth creationist Dave suddenly had, of course evolution is true. Of course it's true. It just, all that cognitive dissonance just went,
Okay. Now, after coming out of religion into atheism, did you ever face any kind of discrimination or anything like that?
I was pretty lucky, honestly. Right now I'm living in San Francisco, and I've been living there for 20 years. So I started in Fresno, Central California. So there was more room for that. But honestly, I can't say that I did. And I never really had a bad experience with my church either. The thing that has been tough is that it's this huge elephant in the room for my Christian parents.
Okay.
Yeah. That was tough. And even after I'd stopped going to church, even after I'd moved in with my girlfriend, even if it has been like a year or two after all that, I just assumed they knew I wasn't a Christian anymore.
Yeah.
But when I sat them down and told them just to clear the air, they were like, what? They could not believe it. And but that said, I was terrified to tell them, but it got better. It got better. I mean, it's weird, but it's fine, And I would encourage anybody who's on the fence about where to come out of any closet you're in. It's kind of awesome being out of a closet. And there's a lot of closets out there to be in.
Yeah. So, when it comes to the religious, and particularly the religious right in this country, what do you feel is the biggest threat that they pose?
Well, keep in mind that one thing that the religious right and we have in common is that both of us sometimes feel like we're surrounded by the enemy and the enemy is winning. This is one case where the religious right is dead on and we are wrong about that. They are surrounded, they are losing, and those numbers just keep ticking up, and we are going to come out on top. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Okay.
Did I answer your question? I feel like I took a turn there.
No. I mean, that pretty much, instead of worrying about the threat that they pose, it's just wait it out. They won't be a threat.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better, because what's happening now is the internet has enabled people to, if you're atheist or even on the fence, you are now in contact with every other atheist on the planet. Mm-hmm. You can now fact check your preacher in real time from the pew. There is all kinds of ways that you can realize that what they're telling you in church is bullshit in a way that's never been available. And it's not just Christianity, but it's Islam. It's happening around the world all the time. And all these things are coming together. The genie's already out of the bottle, is what I'm saying. But what I did want to caution is that as the internet and all these forces wear away from the more rational people or who are on the fence, we're going to get left with this nutty, crunchy core of whack job fundamentalist Christianity.
The Westboro Baptists.
The snake handlers, the Westboro Baptists, the most vicious, evil, vile fucks out there in religious land. And that's going to get ugly. Mm-hmm. And the more that shrinks down, it's like piranha pools in South America. When the pool's nice and big, they're not so bad. When it shrinks down to about this big, they will skeletonize anything that gets in their path. Mm-hmm. So we need to be aware of that they're going to get more ugly the more desperate they become, and they're not going to do anything but become more desperate.
Okay. And like I said, I didn't have too many questions. Just one final one. Have you heard about the medals the Vatican?
The Vatican's misspelled. This stuff writes itself.
Yeah, it's almost as good as the Tears of God tree.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
I think it was somewhere out in California. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There was a church that there was this tree outside of. I may be getting some of the details wrong, but the important stuff is that these people realized that if you went up to the tree and you like, put your hand on the tree and like said something to God, that you would feel the tears of God falling from the tree, and people would come to gather at the tree, and they'd be like people trying to catch the tears of God in their mouth and all of that kind of stuff. And
it sounds like science is baffled by this.
Well,
there's no explanation.
The explanation was aphids.
God, aphids, you know.
Yes, they were literally ingesting the people that would go. They were ingesting aphid shit because it was that time of the year, and it wasn't just that tree; it was all trees, and it wasn't just if you said something to God; it was whether you said it or not.
It's a poignant metaphor, isn't it?
But when people came up and said, "No, this is the explanation," there were people getting offended.
Sure.
People saying,
sure.
You know, yes, but it still means something spiritually. And
it's beautiful.
Yes.
I want to have a T-shirt made that says, "All religions are beautiful and true except yours."
That would be fantastic.
You know, it's funny, when you're talking about the Vatican thing, the sad thing about that metal fuck-up of theirs is that's the least heinous scandal they've had in, like, 20 years.
Yeah. Like, I genuinely found myself one day sitting there like, this Pope isn't that big a douche, actually. The last one, you know,
the last one was Emperor Palpatine, let's face it.
Yes. Yeah, that was my first thought when I'm a big Star Wars fan, and my first thought when I saw him was someone bleached the Emperor's robes.
The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this guy seems to be... I disagree with him on the belief, but he doesn't seem nearly as bad.
Do we have time to get into the whole thing? Because there's interesting things I can say about the situation in the Vatican right now.
Oh, no, go right ahead. I
have a friend on the internet who's a former French Catholic priest, and about 6 months before this whole kerfuffle blew up over Pope Ratzinger, he says, "Okay, Dave, you didn't hear this from me, but listen to this." And he proceeds to tell me how the Vatican Bank has been in violation of like 7 out of the 12 basic European financial institution laws forever, and that there's this little snake den of all these competing factions who are making money hand over fist, illegally and totally illegally, all hate each other, all fighting against each other. The guy who the Pope sent in to fix the Vatican Bank had to get run out of town like 6 months later because he couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
This Pope, and he's telling me this 6 months before it happens. Yeah, this Pope it's totally foobar there. So this is what gets me. It's like that Pope covered up for decades pedophilia, pedophile priests, for decades, thousands of these cases. And that's not what gets him kicked out. He gets kicked out for financial misconduct. He's the Al Capone of popes. That pisses me off.
Yeah, and so it wasn't a
and so it's not over yet. It's not over yet. It had nothing to do with the pedophile scandal at all. It all had to do with financial misconduct, and we haven't seen the end of it. Who knows what's going to shape up and come out in the next year or two?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty.
It's going to be
pretty interesting to watch.
It's going to be pretty interesting. So grab your popcorn.
I was going to say I've got the popcorn at home.
Yep.
So I'll be sure to set some of that up.
Yeah. Can I pimp out 2 of my books?
Absolutely. Do pimp out however many you would like.
I showed this book, Nailed, 10 Christian Myths That Show Jesus Never Existed at All. No hyperbole at all. That's exactly what I mean. I don't even think there was a guy named Jesus. And this is the reasons why. All the Christians who hated that book seem to think I really improved when I did this book on the Mormons. And I'm really pleased with all the good reviews that the Mormon book is getting. And it says on the back, because religion isn't just wrong, it's hilarious. So that's the series I'm working on now. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so
it
much
was a pleasure to meet
me.
you.
Absolutely, you too.
Okay. And guess that wraps it up.
Great. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you.